Hey, welcome back to our show. This is the Year of Magical Learning, aka Yomo. It's good to be back. This is a Monday. We've had a long weekend just because last week Chris has some running for
Trains.
trains,
I had some trains to catch.
trains to catch. So,
Yeah.
we had a short week last week. So I'm glad to be back. And today we're on Reflection 169. I don't know. This is probably a different theme from the previous few that we had so far, but I'll let Chris introduce the reflection and let's talk about it.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. So this book's called Into the Wild. It is a book by the author Jon Krakauer, which he's the guy that wrote Into Thin Air, and the one we'll talk about that one later on. But he's a pretty famous author that writes about they're I don't know, I can never remember what to call this, but he's writing about, in this scenario, a person who's already passed away.
Yes, biography.
Biography. Okay. All right. So this is called Into the Wild. It's a pretty famous cover out of the guy on the bus on the top up there. It's a pretty famous book. Kids read it in school and high school and whatever. My reflection title of this one is There Has to Be Another Way. So what's this book about? Well, this book's about this guy named Christopher Johnson McCandless. He grew up in a pretty wealthy family, and he went to Emory University. And after he graduated, he took the rest of his college fund, and then he just drove away toward the western part of the country. Emory's in Georgia. He just took his car and drove west and gave away all of his possessions, got rid of all of his money. He just took a 10-pound bag of rice and a 22 caliber rifle. Eventually he ended up making his way up into Alaska. He decided that after a few years of tramping around, was what he called it or whatever in the book, he was kind of living literally paycheck to paycheck, trailer parks and whatever, and anywhere he could find a place he could stay for a little bit. And then he was a vagabond. He would just kind of pick up and move and go to new places and do a job for a few weeks to make a little bit of money and then move on to the next place. At one point in time, he was super into philosophy and things like that. And he was a pretty well-educated person. He was college educated. And he was going massively counterculture from the world he was raised in and on his own search for meaning a lot of times. At one point in time on his journey, he decided, I'm going to go to the Alaskan bush and try to just live off the land. So he took a little survival guide and was woefully unprepared and took like a 10-pound bag of rice, gun, and a camera. And he walked into the Alaskan bush to try to survive on his own. Unfortunately, he passed away after 113 days of being in the Alaskan bush. Eventually, his journal was found. This is the story as written by Jon Krakauer of this guy's life. He never met him, never knew him, but he was just kind of fascinated by the story that he came across. And then when interviewed a lot of these people that knew of him in his last few years before his life, a lot of it's speculation about what may or may not have happened while he was in Alaska based off of his journals and things like that he left and some of the books that he was reading. So that's what this book's about, right? Long story short, the guy died and his family was devastated, and a lot of people asking how the hell did this happen, right? Like, what the hell, right? So that's what the story's about. Any questions at a high level?
So, does he have any kind of mental illness?
He was just a person that was searching for meaning.
What makes him wants to leave his college and give away all his stuff and move on?
What was the atomic bomb event that drove him down this
Yeah,
road? Yeah,
exactly.
I don't know.
There is
No,
something.
yeah, there was something. I mean, there was something, and I don't think anybody ever knew it necessarily. Because once again, this is a biographical account of his life. Nobody was ever able to interview. This was a story. Jon Krakauer was trying to piece together what the hell happened. A lot of times nobody really knows what drove. Even his own family doesn't know what drove him to go do what he was doing, but nonetheless he did. So that's kind of what the whole mystery of this whole book. That's why the reflection title is There Has to Be Another Way. So here's this book. After I finished it, all I could think about was this poor guy I feel for him, because I think all he was trying to do was to discover himself, learn what he cared about, and find out who he really was, embrace being a human, find meaning and purpose in this world. I think that was all that he was trying to do. But he did it alone. Number one, one of our core values is don't do it alone. And he decided to do this alone, and he actively and purposely wanted to do it alone, which I think was the biggest mistake he personally could have made in this regard. I think there would have been plenty of people that would have gone down this road if he had a Jazzy Jeff with them or something like that, to take this journey with him to try to figure this stuff out. I mean, you and I, we could both be alone in our journeys. I could still be feeling like I did the day after Amelia passed away and totally shit spiral, going down the other way. I could have ended up in the Alaskan bush by myself trying to find purpose and meaning. Who the hell knows what the hell would have happened, right? But when you have other people around you like that, that's one of my core values, is don't do it alone. I feel a kindred soul with him, because I think he was just doing the same thing that we're trying to do right now with Your Magical Learning, where he was trying to explore, learn, reflect, have that time, embrace humanity, and get back to his roots of understanding why we do what we do and why he does what he does. And that's what a lot of this book's about. And this actually is what made me start to think about a question that you and I talk about all the time. He went to extremes to go try to figure this thing out, right? And I went to extremes in my own life by losing my daughter through the atomic blast, and that was when I learned a lot of the lessons that we learned, that I've learned, that have been shaping this journey and shaping the rest of my purpose and direction going forward in life. So I've personally been troubled by this question, and you and I have talked about this a million times, is can you learn the lessons of life that you need to uncover without going to the extremes? This is something that I just can't get out of my head. You and I have talked about this, and we can talk about this when I'm done, because I'm sure we'll have plenty of thoughts to talk about. I go back and forth on this one all the time of, like, is it possible to learn what Chris McCandless would have learned going into the Alaskan bush, and had he survived, how that may have shaped his life, and guided his vision in the future, kind of thing. Like for me, I would give anything to have my daughter back here. And we've talked about this a million times in the past, but like, I don't know that I would have ever learned the lessons that I've learned in my life without that seminal event shaping what's going on with my life at this point in time either. And I'm not saying that's good or bad at this point in time. I'm very torn on all this stuff because it means my daughter's not here. I feel like I have a better grasp of my life these days. It was found in the extremes. So, I've been really, really troubled by this. And I know that you and I, that's one of the reasons why we started Clubany, because we want to find a way to have people to be able to find purpose and meaning, to help people to find purpose and meaning without having to go to the extremes of life and having an atomic bomb event or forcing an atomic bomb event like Chris McCandless did to try to find that purpose and that meaning, right? So I think there's got to be another way. I mean, I feel like there's got to be another way, but I can't see it sometimes. I do not know the answer. Humility, right? Another core value. I do not know
Right.
if it's
Wait,
possible.
I don't
But
know
yeah,
shit. You don't know shit. But the thing
right.
is, what shit I don't know, you know. What shit you don't know, I know. And that's, to me, is what I think about when you were talking through your reflection. Is it's about balance, right? And I
Yeah,
know there is other ways. There are always other options because I see them. I see them all the time. Because for me and you, right, it's about the balance. You say that you don't want to do things alone. Why is that? Because how do you see your back?
I
You
guess,
cannot see your no.
I mean,
You are a manifestation of God, but you
yeah,
still can't see your back. The only
yeah,
person who can see your back is your friend.
right. A
He
meaningful
sees back
relationship.
and he'll tell you exactly. That's exactly what I want to drive home. It's about meaningful relationship. You can search for your purpose, but if you're spiraling out of control, who is your lifeline? If you're sinking into the quicksand, who is going to save you? When you go into quicksand, because the journey is going to be riddled with all these obstacles and conflicts and resistance. To me, the most important core value you can have is never do it alone. And
I agree.
you took it to heart, and I took it to heart, because you think about it, right? I can't see my back, and you can't see your back, but I can see your back. I have your back, you have my
Yeah,
back. That's why we are so much safer and so much better together. To have meaningful work requires meaningful relationship, because otherwise you will get lost and you won't be able to get to the point where you have meaningful work.
yeah, I agree. And it doesn't even matter if you do meaningful work.
Even if you
It,
don't have meaningful work, you're on this quest, right?
right.
You're on this quest because, like, a lot of times you're running for trains, and I tell Chris, say, hey, why are you running for trains? Because the
Right.
thing is, I'm reminding you, say, hey, are we doing things we set out? I'm keeping you in check, and
Yeah,
you keeping me in check. Because if I were to go by myself, I would go into this rabbit hole and I don't know how to get out.
yeah, you end up in the Alaskan bush and you're like, and you're
Exactly.
living and you're like poisoning yourself with berries you didn't know you should eat, and stuck
Who's gonna save you when you eat the poison berry? That's what I'm
no
saying
one.
is, even if you have only one other person,
You might get lucky, but I mean it's not gonna,
if you have only one other person to have your back, your chances of survival increases tremendously.
right.
Your chance of finding your purpose increases tremendously.
I agree.
Your chance of finding meaningful work and beavering on purpose increases tremendously. And so I cannot stress how important it is for us to understand the core around meaningful relationship. Meaningful relationship is one of the tantamount core value of company. Meaningful work, meaningful relationship. And that is like yin and yang. You need both of them to be, because they're in this circle.
Yeah,
If you don't have those two, You can just follow the footprint. You can look around the castle. You and I were doing this, like, you think about it, company is something you and I did.
Right.
And for the longest time, just you and me. And
Yeah.
it's just you and me for the
Yeah.
past 2.5 years.
For sure.
We didn't quit, we didn't die. And it even give me even more of a conviction
I agree.
for
Yeah.
who I want to become
I
and the
agree.
journey that we've been on. I mean, I feel even more strong conviction now than I was before. And that's just the
100%.
two of us. It's not just like a bunch of people or anything like that. You have my back and I have your back. That creates this strong, independent, like, ability to move forward.
Agreed. I mean, it's remarkable, honestly. You've over this journey, you've kind of have flipped the narrative for me a little bit, because my thought was meaningful work comes first, and then you build meaningful relationships around the meaningful work, right?
Say it yes and no, because like I'm asking you, if you and me were who's in front and who's behind?
It's always no, both.
That's my point.
Right.
Meaningful
Yeah.
relationship, meaningful work is in that framework of mine. It's
Yeah, I
that
know.
it's a
Yeah.
yin and the yang, right?
Right.
Those two concepts rely on each other to become one, which is whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, that's true. No, I mean, I agree. I guess what I was gonna say was I was pretty adamant that meaningful work comes first and then meaningful relationships follow. I don't know that that's the case anymore.
I don't think that's the case. I think you can argue either way, because like I'm telling you, like, when you are looking for meaningful work, right? How do you find meaningful work if you don't have somebody to make sure that they give you the energy when you're down? It's the most important, most important part, because if I were to be distracted and sidetracked, right, who's going to pull me back? So how can I achieve meaningful work if I don't have somebody to have my back? Then how do I know that I'm completely out of it?
How do you not end up in the Alaskan bush and people are going, what the hell happened to that guy? Like, what, like, that's the thing. It's like, this is the second Jon Krakauer book that I've read. And this is the first one that I had read on this journey. And the other one, you and I have already talked about, Into Thin Air, about the Everest party that died up there. Like, why would you do that? And in this regard, I actually understand why he did what he did. I don't understand the Everest people that are going up to just conquer stuff. He was just trying to find himself.
Answers. The other
He was just
people
trying
were
to find answers. Yeah,
told that
right.
they were told that, hey, it looks good if you can climb Mount Everest, and you
Right.
can tout to people, hey, I've on top of the world. But if you're lost like this guy, he has to do it. He needs the answers he was looking for. But at the
Right.
same time, there are so many obstacles and so many traps that he has no way of escaping when he's already trapped. There's no friend to pull him out. There's no lifeline.
Like, this is kind of what this reflection was about, though. Is like, there's just got to be another way for people to be able to find this stuff. Like, you don't need to do it alone. You don't also need to go to the extremes.
I think,
like,
I think
like,
that's part of the answer there, because
yeah,
I'm telling you that you and I are on this quest. We're on
right.
this life quest.
We could have easily
But
gone down the wrong rabbit hole.
we have followed the footprint,
Right.
the paw prints of Amelia. And the thing is, you and I have gotten better. There are some days that, I'm completely out of my mind, and some days you're completely out of your mind. But that's the thing is, I was able to save you, and you were able to save me. Because
Right.
like, it's not like when you go on this journey, you would never hit an obstacle. You will. It's a guarantee. How
Sure.
you deal with it is going to determine whether you can continue or you don't. Well, for this guy, he couldn't continue because the trap just ended.
I mean, like, that's the other thing, is when you have other people to do it with, like, while nature needs to be respected, the more there's power in the people, and the power in the masses, like you said, to figure out your blind spots, to help you see help you to keep you on course. I do feel more optimistic as this journey goes on, that it is possible to find a meaning and purpose without having to go to the extremes as the catalyst to start that journey, that quest, if you will. I still don't know how we're going to do it. I don't know the answer to this, and I'm okay with not knowing the answer at this stage. But I know that it's possible, and I know that we'll figure it out eventually, because that's kind of what the mission is a little bit. I mean,
It's about living the things that makes you feel like you're alive. But
right.
a beaver must dam, and the beaver is like, what's the point of beavering? It doesn't matter what is the end. The matter is I get to do it. I get to make the dam. I get to swim in the dam. I get to, create these ecosystems. And
My
so for me and for you is, when we talk about these things, is we get energized by it. And whether or not we get to the point where we found the answer or not, to me, that doesn't matter as much. Because for me, it's not about the end of a quest. It's about the continuation of the quest. You don't want to look forward to the day you die.
right.
You look forward to keep going on living and keep experiencing.
Yep.
And that's, to me, is what I see in this journey. It's about, do I feel like I'm on the right path? Do I feel like I'm energized when I do things? Is the work I do manifesting the expressions of my DNA?
That's a good point, because I think Chris McCandless, I don't know him, obviously. Nobody knows him. This story wasn't a first party account or anything like that. But like, one of the things that I actually personally feel like is he wanted to go test if he should live or die or not in the African or at the Alaskan bush. Like, to your point was, like, if you really know your purpose and your meaning, like, you want to keep doing that for as long as you can. Like, you don't want to tempt fate to figure out like where you're going with this or not. Like, I think he actually wanted to go walk that line, should I be here or should I not be here? We'll see what happens when I get pushed to the limit, and I think at the end of the day, I don't think he meant to kill himself, obviously, but
I mean, from what I've heard, he just looking for answers.
yeah,
Just looking for answers. And to think, as long as we are on a quest to fulfill the manifestations of who we are, that all that matters. Because even if I found out that later on, I'm supposed to be somebody different, it doesn't matter. Because let's say I ask you, we are on this quest, and then we'll find the answers. The question I'm going to ask you next is, what's next? So it's always a continuation. That's what we want. It's not to say this is the end. We never want the end. If you say, I've got to this point where I found the answer, I found my purpose, the other questions I'm going to ask, the follow-up question is, then what, right? It's always about, how do we continue this? So
right.
The continuation is what me and you as a human wants. We want it to continue to the journey. We don't want the journey to end. You want to go to the next place, the next place, the next place. This is how the gene works. You want more and more and more, because that's the thing. But you have to satisfy the manifestations of your being. You just have to do certain things that animal does. When you are a certain type of person, you just have to do it. If you are a writer, you must write. If you're a painter, you must paint. Period. You don't have to. But
there's a caveat to that, like the omnivore's dilemma, right? Like, it's really nice to be a koala where all you have to know to eat is eucalyptus leaves, right?
Eucalyptus.
No, I know what I'm saying, but they're tied to only one thing. The beauty of what we can do is we can be a generalist and figure out what we want.
It doesn't matter. You are manifestations of who you are. No, your agency came from who you are.
It's like
your genes allow you to have this agency, this flexibility, and these different options.
That's what I'm saying.
When you have that kind of genes, you want to have the freedom to choose. That's what we want.
Yeah.
Because that's the gene that wants to express.
Correct.
It makes you say, hey, I don't feel good if you limit my options. I don't feel good because that gene has been suppressed.
I guess all I was getting at is instead of saying a painter must paint or a beaver must dam or whatever it may be, it's when you figure out that a painter must paint, that you're a painter, then you must paint, not the other way around. And for me, it's the omni-value dilemma. You can do whatever you want to do in this world.
I cannot play basketball.
You can do the art of running uphill and express every wrong value that doesn't align to your natural painter must paint or something like that. But you could do it if you want to. We could eat all the bad foods in the world too. Like, we can do it. We're not supposed to.
You die.
We're not supposed to do it, and we will kill ourselves.
You die because the thing is, if I eat the grass like the cows eat it, probably not pass a whole week.
I don't know the answer to that.
I'm telling you that if you were to eat grass like the cow eat for that day, you will die that day because of all the toxins in the grass that will kill you that day. No one can save you.
Still die?
You try it?
No.
How much cow eats in a day?
I mean, a lot.
How much hay they eat in a day?
How much does the average cow weigh?
So what happened? You know that you can die by drinking a lot of water.
Yeah, of course.
Who die because their cells are drowning in water.
It's kind of what actually happened to Amelia. They had to pump her full of so many fluids because of her blood pressure dropping issues. And like when you put a lot of fluids in your body, like it forces your body to put
drowning in fluids.
So she can't do dialysis, and it started to shut down her kidneys. And because it started to shut down her kidneys, she had all this fluid in her body it was like her potassium levels spiked really, really high because she had a bunch of electrolytes in her system and she couldn't get rid of it. She couldn't get it out of her body. So her heart started going crazy because of that. And then like, other things started to cascade. And
So my point is exactly, you cannot do whatever you want.
No, I didn't mean that you could do it. I mean that it was right to
You can do whatever you want. Let's say, for example,
we've been given a pretty big range as humans.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying is your gene give you that you have. Right. Other animals don't have the gene to give them that kind of range. You can only do what you want in that limitations of your range.
Oh, I totally agree.
Left hand or right hand, that's the choices. If you have 10 toes, you have 10 choices. That's what I'm saying. Right. Is the manifestations of your gene give you those options. Cannot do whatever you want.
But we're idiots and we can run uphill if we want to.
We run up the hill only unless it's sloped in a way that you can do it. If it's sloped too much, then you can't within your limits. If it slopes all the way up.
I guess I'm always trying to get at it. Coming off the heels of just finishing the omnivore's dilemma, right? I love the idea of the beaver museum. It's so simple. I get the thing. You just
no, it's not about doing you. It's to do you. Who you are.
Yes.
Let's say you're a painter or a philosopher, then you be the philosopher thinker or the philosopher painter. You want to be king and philosopher king, right? I'm not telling you to be only one thing. I'm just saying a beaver has only one thing. His manifestation is one thing. If you have more faculties, then you can do more faculties. Right. I'm not telling you to limit yourself. I'm telling you that you got to manifest who you are.
I agree. I mean, we are 100% in agreement with this. I guess I'm not. I mean, this is my last attempt at this one. I was saying that we technically can funnel all that down. We have a lot more that we could funnel down into that beavering. You know what I mean? Like the beaver only has one option, in my opinion, and that's what they do. And then once we do that, I agree with you. We should do what the beaver does, like naturally.
One step at a time, though. One step at a time. We cannot understand all of the different options that we have as a human because we are more complex than the beaver. But the thing is, unless somebody understands the fundamental of what we're saying,
you got to get to the
beaver first, and then take that and say, well, I'm not a beaver. Okay, that's cool. Now I can understand a bit more. I can say, well, because human has a lot more faculty, maybe 100 more than a beaver does. Right. And just take that and extrapolate to, okay, what are the optimal combinations of all the faculties I have to make me be the best who I am?
I don't disagree at all. I think as it relates back to this particular book and this particular reflection, we have so much that we can explore and we all want to figure this out. But I do love the conversation about don't do it alone. That's what this guy's problem was. He did it by himself. I think he would have been fine. I think he would have survived. I think he would have came home and I think he would be living a happy, meaningful life at this point in time if he had anybody else that would have been able to go on the show. And that's the ironic thing about this book too, is when you read it, like a lot of people liked him a lot. Like he would meet a lot of people along the way and he would actively push them aside. And he's like, nope, I'm going on and doing this stuff by myself. And this is what happens when you figure out, when you try to go live your meaning and your purpose and find that stuff out by yourself, like is you take yourself into some stupid ass shit and, fingers crossed you can get out of it. But, unfortunately for him, he didn't. I actually really love that message that, just final thought for the day would be like, don't do it alone. Like, I mean, like there's another way.
That should be the title for this book. This is a lesson.
I'll stick with the title of this one, but yeah, I mean, I agree with you.
I'm not going to change the title. I'm just saying it should be. I mean, to me, the takeaway from today's discussions, as for my personal note, is to never do alone. And this is one of the things that reaffirms the core values that we have inside Clubany.
100%. I mean, you could do all this shit by yourself, or you can do it with somebody else. And I have a really sneaking suspicion that you'll actually get to where you want to go when you do it with somebody else. And I have a sneaking suspicion you end up dead on a creek side in the Alaskan bush if you don't.
And I don't doubt that at all.
Well, seriously, questing is dangerous. I mean, we talked about this before in the past too.
It's not easy. Life is hard, right?
Yeah.
Life is always, you stumble on traps after traps, and people, they don't necessarily going to benefit you.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to make sure that you're in alignment with somebody else who has your back and you have their back.
I agree. I wonder what this guy's atomic bomb event was, actually. I wish we could have known that because something set him down this journey. And I don't know what it was, but I wish we could figure it out. I wish we were there to help him. Unfortunately, we can't with him, but we can with other people. So hopefully if anybody's watching this and they're curious to learn more, like...
Yeah, if anyone is struggling, right? I guarantee you there's always a struggle because that's life. Life is always going to present you with struggle because when I do anything alone, I go, right, into the journey. Like one of those days, it's going to have something that's going to trip me. I guarantee you one of them is going to trip me. So who is going to be there to help recover from the tripping and continue on the journey? Because some of these tripping could continue to derail that path completely and forever.
Yeah, you're right.
And see if you can have an accountability buddy to move along with you to watch your back.
Yeah, actually, you just made me think about when I used to gamble a lot. When I gambled, I never wanted to gamble with somebody else. And if I would have had somebody else there with me, they would have been like, yo, this is not you. You need to stop. You need to get back on the right path. Thank God got pulled off of that path, to be honest with you. But
like
yeah,
I say, the
I
potential
only
for
want to
you
do it
to
alone.
derail your life is so real.
It's very real. I mean, I could easily imagine my life, quickly at the age of like 23,
You could
24,
be homeless by now.
For sure. Every time I gambled, I only wanted to do it alone. I didn't want to be around other people when I gambled because I was like, look, this is what I want to do. This is my beavering, but I want to go do this on my own, like I'm in my own element, in my own
Yeah,
zone.
but
Like,
the thing is, I'm telling you, even if I mean, yeah, even
That's the
if
bad
you
thing.
say the thing is, even if you go say I want to be a gambler, having other gambler will actually save you because certain things like say,
Oh yeah, I
don't do
agree.
that, right?
Oh,
The
for
thing is,
sure.
you
Yeah.
just find people who has your same core value, whatever it is. You want to
Yeah.
be a thief, right? Have other thieves with you. You
Right.
think about it. There's a
Yeah.
better thieves is gonna have more successful than the lone thief because lone thief always get killed.
Or think of Ocean's 12, or Ocean's 11. I mean,
I'm not saying you should
Yeah, yeah.
be. I'm
No,
just
but if you
saying.
are, don't do it alone. I agree with you. I mean, yeah, I would still be.
I'm not advocating anyone to be a thief because that just goes against most people's core values. And if your
Right.
core value to be a thief, then I can't say it. But to truly say that you're a thief,
if you want to make a career out of it, like you better have somebody else around you to help you. I totally agree. So question we can leave for everyone is how can you learn the lessons of life without having to go to the extremes to find it? Maybe that question could also be, are you doing it alone? Like, that's another question we could ask for today.
and I think from this reflection is, how can you survive through the extremes?
By yourself.
Is this no
No.
extremes, but
Yeah.
how can you survive the extreme? Because like I say, sometimes like atomic bomb will come to you. You have no control over that. But how do you get out of the rubble? And to me, the best way to do it is to have somebody who will give you
Yeah.
that lifeline. Watch your back.
Agreed. Thanks for joining, and thanks for the great conversation as always. We will look forward to seeing you guys all tomorrow.
Good night.